Hey, I'm so glad that I can be with you today. I wish I could be there in person, but weather not permitting. And besides, I get to do it sitting here in my underwear. No, I'm just kidding. I'm sitting here in my jeans, and that's my favorite thing to do. I just wanted to share a few things with you today. Jack and I have been in this business 29 years. Well, he's been in 29, I've been in 28. We went to the first meeting together, and I thought I would go and see if everybody was honest and if it looked like a good deal. And I did that, and they did, and it was, and I never went to another thing for a year. You know how when you go to a meeting and you get out of the meeting and you're pumped up and you're all excited and you can hardly go home and you want to share it? Well, I'd pull up with the kids in the station wagon, and we would have been to the zoo, and I would honk the horn, and then I would go, come on, and he would come. And believe it or not, he never said anything to me. He never got mad at me. I think he handled me. As I look back, I think I was being handled, but I didn't know it at the time, so it's okay. He got his first promotion, and we ended up back in Point Clear, Alabama. And I had a choice at that point whether to go to my mother's for Christmas or go to Point Clear, Alabama. And I went to Point Clear kicking and screaming the whole entire drive. We got there, and we sat at the table of the president and his wife, which meant nothing to me because I hadn't been to anything. I didn't know who they were. Jack got his first promotion, which in those days was RVP, and I didn't understand the magnitude of it because I hadn't been anywhere. I didn't know what anything was. And as we were walking away, his boss pulled me close, and he said, Linda, Jack is really going places. And I said, well, of course he is. I raised him. I mean, I've had him longer than his mother's had him, right? And I got all puffy and warm and everything. And then he held me close and he said, I wish you were going with him. And at that point, it began to be clear to me that I had the possibility of turning him from this business at that point. Or at least making it so miserable it wouldn't have been any fun for him. But luckily, something happened and fate intervened. And our secretary had to leave, and I ended up being in the office because I had been a secretary in my previous life. And while I was there, something happened that changed my attitude forever. We had a part-time rep who sold a policy to a single mom with a 4-year-old little girl. Several weeks after he placed that policy, that mom was killed in a head-on car collision. And a check was placed in trust for that little girl to receive when she turned 21. 10 years ago, that little girl turned 21, and I would have given anything to be there. But with this experience, I finally figured out what it is that we do. And on a more personal note, our Jo and her husband John lost their first baby, Mandy, to SIDS. She was 3 months old. We had no insurance on her. I watched my children. They could hardly sleep. They could hardly eat. Finances were the very last thing on their minds. But burial plots had to be bought and caskets had to be purchased. If we had not had this opportunity in our lives that afforded us the success that we had, I don't know what we'd have done. But now our 14 other grandchildren all have insurance policies, and they get it the minute it's possible for them to get it. And that is what we do. You don't want to talk to your friends? I remember when Jack and I in the early days would go to a party, and I would stand on the front porch, and this is what I would do. I would rehearse with him. These are our friends. They do not want an opportunity. They do not want an investment, and they certainly do not want insurance. Really? Because that's what we do. Anyway, we have me in the office. I was in all the way, and I was in the mall, and I saw this prophetic t-shirt that said, I must hurry to catch up with the others, for I am their leader. And I knew that I had to. We had partners who were looking for leadership, and it needed to be me. And then, after I'd been in there a while, it became possible for me to speak on what you should do and what I had done, and not what I thought you should do because I hadn't the experience. One thing I know is nobody wants your success more than your partner. If you were in any other business with a business partner, you would not forge ahead without talking things over with your partner, without every decision being a mutual agreement. You wouldn't change direction without discussing it with your partner, and your partner would be in on all decisions. Do the same with your life partner. When we got in this business, I thought we were in it to pay a few bills. I didn't know we were here for life, but a few things that Jack did helped me know that we were here forever and that he'd planted his flag. The first thing that sold me was he made money. Monty has told us that partners can be bought. Sad, but true. We have a grocery store here in our town called H-E-B. And I cannot go into that grocery store and say, I need milk and eggs and sugar, but I don't have any money. But my husband has this opportunity because H-E-B only knows cash. Unfortunately, H-E-B and partners share a lot in common. When someone comes to me and says, Linda, will you speak to my partner? She's not, or he's not supportive. One of the first things I'm going to ask you is, did you make any money last month? It's so easy to be a meeting attender and a telephone talker and a presentation giver and not make any money doing any of them. Fortunately or unfortunately, your success in this business is defined by how much money you make. And while I'm on the subject, in the beginning it's about the money. And what I've learned firsthand is that some people believe money is bad or evil. It's not. Some people believe money will end all their problems. It won't. Still others believe that if they have more money than people around them, they will be better. They aren't. But here's something else I've learned. Some people will tell you money doesn't buy happiness. It does. It buys family vacations for your married kids and their children. It sends all your grandchildren to preschool. It takes your daughter on a Phantom of the Opera, cheesecake at midnight in your room, in your pajamas, shopping spree. It takes your sons on a don't bring anything but your clubs, meet me in Tennessee, golf spree. It fulfills that special wish, that important dream for somebody at church. And it lets your 5-year-old grandson have the best eye surgeon, even if his insurance doesn't cover the whole surgery. It lets you bring your children to you as you face breast surgery or heart procedure. It lets you lay to rest your dad and your grandbaby with dignity. It lets you fly out at a moment's notice to attend a child who's been in a serious car accident in Albuquerque. It lets you fly out at a moment's notice to a child who's given birth to a premature baby. And it lets you fly out at a moment's notice to a child who just needs you. It lets you fulfill the dream of a camp for autistic kids and their families. And so money is not evil, and it's not good. It's just necessary. And while this talk of money, because if you stay and you work hard, it won't be, and you do it right, you're going to have money. And then all of a sudden, it won't be about the money anymore. Really, it won't. It becomes about looking beyond your family and into the world to see what your money can do. Gordon Hinckley told the BYU student body, you are good, but it is not enough just to be good. You must be good for something. You must contribute good to the world. The world must be a better place for your presence, and the good that is in you must spread to others. Money will give you voice. It will give you influence. In combination with others with money, it will bring you power. Use that power for good. Many years ago when I was a little girl, TVs were only black and white. There were only 2 brands and 4 stations, and the screen was 13 inches. But there was a show on Sunday nights called The Millionaire, and we would watch it religiously as a family. And the whole premise was that this millionaire would send his emissary out into the world with $1 million check, and he would bestow it upon somebody, and then the rest of the show we would watch to see what that money would do in their life. And if they were good people, they'd do good things with it. If they were bad people, they would just be jerks with money, and you know how that goes. Wouldn't it be fun to give somebody a check? We were, not long ago, in a restaurant. My daughter was paying the bill, and actually it was with a big group that was there for retreat. And there was a man and woman standing there, and they were talking to us about who we were and why the big group. And it was several Asians. It was Andy Nguyen's team, and they think it's probably more Asians than we've ever had in the city at one time in our life. And they were interested to know who we were and why we picked a Mexican food restaurant. And the man who owns the restaurant, his name is Alfredo. And he said to Joe, do you see that man? He said, he came to me a few months after I opened my business, and he handed me a $10,000 check. And he said, this is a gift. This is not a loan. And then he said it again, this is a gift. This is not a loan. And Alfredo said, I held on to it for as long as I could, and then the day finally came that I needed to use it. Wouldn't that be fun? Wouldn't you love to do that? But you know, you can do it smaller, and you can start now. A couple of weeks ago, I went to the chicken drive-in, and I gave the girl a $5 tip, and when she walked through the door, she whooped, and all her friends did too. One time when Jack and I were in a restaurant, we were talking to a waitress, and it was about Christmas time, and you know how we all do, we're talky-talky, and so Jack is talking to her, and he said, "I bet you're looking forward to Christmas," and she got all teary, and she said, "Not really." And she said that her husband went to school while she kept the kids, and then when he came home, she waitressed at night, and they really didn't have much. So when we left her a $100 tip. And because it was night, we walked outside, and we stood in the parking lot, and we looked back in. We could see her, but she couldn't see us, and we watched her. And the first thing she did was she looked around to make sure we'd done it on purpose, and then she ran to tell every friend that she had and show them the money, and it was so much fun. One time we were in Walmart. We were with Jo when she was in college, and there was a young couple in front of us with a 2-year-old, and they had like 4 or 5 items: shoes, diapers, wipes, maybe lotion, and some soap. And they were trying to figure out what to put back because they didn't have enough money for all of it. So Jack slipped Joey $100, and we left the line and walked into the store, and we told her to give it to them and just tell them Merry Christmas. And then we got to stand back and watch them with that $100, and they cried over a pair of shoes and some soap and some diapers and some wipes. And so it doesn't take much for you to go out into the world and begin to make a difference. I want you to begin now to imagine what important thing in your heart you would like to bring to pass. I want it to be bigger than you. I want it to seem unreachable. I want you to start to formulate your plan. And I know that if I went down the line with every one of you, that you have something in your heart, something that you want to see happen in the world. And with a little bit of money, it could happen, and it could be you, because it's going to happen. And then it won't be about the money anymore. And you've got to have a dream bigger than yourself. I heard someone say, you make a living by what you get, but you make a life by what you give. So don't back up about the money, which brings me back to my 28 years in the business with my husband. Well, Jack's 28 and my 27. But we finally did pull together, and we had a well-oiled machine going. We did what it took. We paid the price. We stayed late. We made some mistakes. We course-corrected. We raised some marvelous, happy, motivated children who were able to receive every advantage. And while we were doing all of this, we had lots of fun. We made incredible friendships, and we were rewarded many times over. Just for a minute, if anybody in this audience has been on a trip that Jack and I have been on, I want you to stand. And I'm going to give you a few minutes to do this. And I'm going to talk for just a minute about some of the places we've been. And as I do this, I want you to watch these people, because they're going to shake their heads. And it's amazing what we've done. And I'm going to go through it really fast, so you're going to have to listen fast. Here we go. We've been to Hawaii 28 times, all islands. We've seen whales jump. We've snorkeled with incredible fish. We've seen a volcano. We've laid in a hammock together and watched the moon over the ocean. We were smaller then. We've been to Europe 10 or 12 times, so many times we couldn't remember. We've been to Italy, Florence, Venice, and Rome. We've seen the Vatican, the Sistine Chapel, the Statue of David, the Colosseum, where the lions ate the Christians. We've ridden in a gondola. We've eaten Italian pizza in Rome. We flew on the Concorde, New York to Paris, 3 hours and 19 minutes, ate caviar for the first time on that plane. We've been to the top of the Eiffel Tower. Some even looked over the side. I kind of stayed in the middle. We've eaten dinner sailing down the Seine. We've been to the Louvre. We've seen the Mona Lisa. We ate French creme brulee at a sidewalk restaurant in Paris. We've been to the house of Christian Dior and Napoleon's tomb. We've been to Monte Carlo. I won $700 on the quarter slots, but don't tell anybody because I don't gamble. We took a train from London to Scotland, where instead of telling you to drive home carefully, they say, go gently. We've been to Acapulco, where Jack was careful not to drink the water, but forgot and had a lemonade on the golf course and spent the rest of the time lying in the bathroom. We've been to St. Martin and stayed at the villa. We've been to Cabo San Lucas, where the wealthy go to get away from it all. We've been to Germany. We've seen the castle Walt Disney used as the model for Sleeping Beauty's castle. We've driven from Munich to the Alps on the Autobahn, albeit in a van with 6 of our very best friends. while Rich and Cindy drove a Porsche. I don't know what that means. We spent the night in a chalet with these same 6 friends. We've been to Dachau, the Jewish concentration camp. We've seen Buckingham Palace, Windsor Castle, Big Ben, the Crown Jewels. We've had dinner sailing down the Thames, and I've shopped at Harrods. We went to Austria. We visited the location where The Sound of Music was filmed, most particularly the part where Liesl sings, "I am 16, going on 17, you know, that song. And we danced in the very gazebo. In Vienna, we had an 8-course dinner in the Hofburg Palace. We wore ball gowns and tuxedos, and Jack Linder learned to waltz. We've been to Greece. We've seen the Parthenon, the Acropolis. We've ridden donkeys in Santorini, and we've had a real Greek salad in Athens. We've been to Portugal, and I bought a purse made of cork. We've been to Barcelona, Spain. We've been to New York, seen Broadway shows, stayed at the Plaza, ate at the Tavern on the Green, rode a horse-drawn carriage through Central Park, seen the skaters at Rockefeller Center, shopped at FAO Schwartz, and if you ever want to have fun, go with the grandma when she shops at FAO Schwartz. We've shopped at Bloomingdale's, 3 city blocks, 5 stories high, and believe me, we shopped till we dropped. We've eaten chocolate at Ghirardelli, clam chowder at Fisherman's Wharf, and Chinese food, all in San Francisco. We've been to Canada, Lake Louise in the summer and the winter, and Banff, where we saw the elk just chilling on the greens of the golf course. We've been to Victoria Island. Jack's been to the Calgary Stampede, one of the things on his bucket list. You know, those things you want to do before you kick the bucket. It was a life dream. We've cruised to the Bahamas, to Alaska, to Tahiti twice, and to Croatia. We've ridden wave runners in the South Pacific and at Lake Powell in Utah. We've taken our children to Disney World, St. Thomas, Vienna, and Hawaii several times. Jack has played golf, all right, get ready for this, in Scotland. He's played Augusta National, watched Tiger Woods win the Masters. He's played golf at Doral, Kapalua, Kaanapali, Pebble Beach, Cypress Point, Pinehurst 2, Spyglass Hills, Spanish Bay, PGA West, and has been to the Ryder Cup. And very recently he has played at Lisbon in Portugal. He's been to the Tyson Holyfield fight at Caesars Palace and the Super Bowl. He's ridden in a pace car and been the starter for a race at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Jack has had his picture taken with 2 U.S. presidents, 2 governors of Texas, Pat Riley, Lou Holtz, Joe Namath, Steve Covey, Tom Peters, General Norman Schwarzkopf, Joe Gibbs, Rick Pitino, Mark Martin, Carl Edwards, Cal Ripken Jr., and Mary Lou Retton. We have 15 beautiful grandchildren riding 4-wheelers all over our ranch in Lampasas. Our furry black cattle are living there with us, and we don't have to drive 2 hours to get to them. We sit on our porch and we watch the sun go down deep in the heart of Texas, and that's why I'm the most supportive partner on the planet. We are so blessed, and some of these blessings our Heavenly Father has given us freely. Then there are other blessings for which we have worked hard and paid the price. Was it worth it? Oh yeah. We want the same things for you and your families. What's your why? Why will you give all you can? Why will you stay late? Will you stay? Will you pay the price? Will you make some serious money? And will you be somebody who makes a difference? If you will do this, our work here is done. We're 65 though, so you better hurry. Why you? Why now? Why not? Thanks. Merry Christmas.